What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. You are officially tuning into part 2 of my Frontal Wig series. As y'all can see, I'm really feeling this, so let me show y'all how I went ahead and got this done. First, what I like to do in regards to plucking, I like to wet my frontal because it gives me a better idea of what I'm plucking and what it's looking like as I'm going. And on the back of my tweezers are a comb that I use, and basically the purpose of that comb on the back of my tweezers is to start to comb back the hairs that I've already tweezed. That's why I love using these tweezers specifically. And just make sure that you are pulling the hairs from the roots, but you are actually not pulling on the closure and possibly subjecting it to holes, because if you don't pull from the roots and you're just kind of pulling wherever you feel like, there's going to be like little hairs that are left in there, and you really do not want that. So just make sure you are pulling as close to the closure as possible, ladies. Thankfully, my closure was actually not too dense, so I did not have to pluck a lot. But I will say that just make sure you are not plucking more than you think, if that makes any sense. Just do it as sparingly as possible, because you don't want it to look like you got a bald-headed closure. And yeah, luckily I did not have a dense closure, so I really didn't do a lot of plucking. There is really no method to the madness. Just make sure that it looks right and just keep checking to make sure it's basically as plucked as you would prefer. Now here, ladies, what I'm doing, I am just sizing up where I want my frontal to lay, and you really want to play around with it and make sure that you are holding it in front of your hairline, because that'll give you the best idea of where your frontal is going to fall. My room looks a mess, disregard that. But what I'm doing here, I'm just cutting off the piece of the frontal that I know I'm not going to need. So I'm taking that big chunk right there, and I'm just going to go cut in a straight line and cut down just to cut off that piece. And this can really make or break the way your frontal lays. So please be careful when you are cutting off the frontal. I have actually cut off a lot of my frontal before, and I ended up looking crazy, and I just wasted like what, $80 on a frontal that I couldn't even use again. So just make sure you are tucking it behind your ear, making sure it's laying where you want to. Pull it in front of your hairline, because that's where you want the frontal to lay. Here I am putting my powder on my frontal, because that gives me the color of my scalp. So whatever color you think works for you, you can go ahead and put that on there. Some people use the stocking cap method. I tried it and I ended up looking so ridiculous, you guys. It looked really trifling. Like, it just did not look right when I did it. So I like to use this method because I still believe it gives the same effect that a stocking cap would. Now I'm just sizing it up to my head and placing it exactly where I want it to be. I am combing all the hairs back before I put on the glue, because I really don't want any hair sticking on there. So I'm just clipping all my hairs completely back. And what I use to apply my frontals is Got2b glue. I'm still looking for I guess a more reliable glue, but so far Got2b glue has not done me wrong. And what I'm doing is I'm taking the back of some tweezers and I'm just applying that all the way around the front of my hairline. You really don't want to get this on your actual edges, because if you tack your frontal down to your edges, you're going to be upset when you're trying to take it off and you can't, because it is literally pulling the hairs out your roots, and you really don't want that to happen. So I like to apply my frontal in front of my hairline. after I apply that first layer of Got2b glue, you want to go ahead and dry that. Not all the way dry, obviously, but you want it to be dry enough that it's kind of tacky so that you can apply another layer. And at the same time, I'm making sure that none of the hairs on the front of my frontal are sticking down. So you just want to be careful because it's going to make it really difficult to apply if you got hair sticking on the glue. So just make sure that you dry it, but keep checking to make sure that it's not completely dry and it's kind of tacky. Now ladies, you really, and I mean you really need this Got2b glue blasting freeze spray. I used to not understand why my frontals were not laying down, but once I bought this freeze spray, the game has changed for me and I am not going back. So please get the freeze spray, and I like to apply a second layer on the flaps of my frontal because that's the first place it likes to flip up or start to slip back. So what I'm doing, I'm just drying it a little bit, and now I'm taking that frontal and I'm applying it. I'm just sliding it forward, and I like to do the front part of my frontal first because it's the easiest, and I like to make sure it is laid down. Please don't use your fingers. I know I'm using my fingers, but I would not recommend doing that. I think I end up switching up later, but definitely use like a toothbrush. Yep, I knew I switched. Use a toothbrush to lay it down because your fingers will start to stick onto the frontal and you don't want that. Now I am just applying the flaps of my frontal down, and you really want to be careful because this is the place where you'll be able to tell if your frontal looks right or not. So I like to pay extra attention to this place, make sure that it is sticking to my glue that I laid down, and at the same time I am drying it so that it does not start to lift. Now this this wig piece in general fit me very snug, so I was really pulling and the Got2b glue really held it in place even though it was really tight on my head. And now I'm just doing the second part and making sure that is slicked down and just making sure that it looks right all the way around, y'all. Now right here, I realized that I slid my frontal forward a little past the glue. So what I did, I just took a little glue on my tweezers and I applied it to like the dire edge of my frontal. And now I'm just making sure that it is drying down and it is melting into my scalp. At the same time, I'm pulling any hairs that kind of decided to slip underneath the glue because it tends to do that regardless, especially if you have straight hair. It likes to like slip underneath. And what I'm doing, I'm just making sure the glue is completely on the front of my frontal because I kind of slid it forward too much. But now I'm just making sure that it is melting into my scalp. Now at this point, I'm deciding to comb all the hairs back because I just want to make sure none of the hairs are like sticking to the glue. So it gives me the opportunity to play with it a little bit. Now in this clip, I took a Q-tip and I dipped it in some alcohol, and I'm just trying to clean off the excess glue that you could kind of see in the previous clips because it is inevitable that it will happen, that you'll have some extra glue. And I know I didn't take off all of it, but as you can see, I'm very satisfied with how it laid down. You just want to make sure that you don't have any hair sticking onto the glue. And now I'm just taking a scarf, and it is a silk scarf. I got it from a beauty supply, and I just want to make sure that my frontal is completely melted onto my skin, and this usually helps. And you can keep on the scarf for about like 10 to 20 minutes. You really don't need it on that long to make sure that your frontal is really stuck on your head. Now that the hard part is over, y'all, I just want you guys to kind of see exactly how my frontal looks. And this is without using the stocking cap method. So I'm actually very happy with how it turned out. Like, I don't think y'all understand. I was so elated with how it turns out. I just wanted to zoom in so you guys can see. I'm not trying to teach y'all. And now I'm just about to lay my edges. Y'all already knew that was coming. And this stuff right here is a foam wrapping lotion. And I just wanted to zoom in because I really wanted you guys to see what I'm doing. I am not applying the foaming lotion to the frontal. I'm applying it to the hairs on the frontal. And I really wanted to emphasize that fact because if you do let it get onto the actual frontal net, there's a possibility that it will start lifting. So please make sure you are careful and you are only applying it to the actual hairs on the frontal. Now at this point I am laying my baby hairs, and I'm just using the finger method where I'm just taking my finger and I'm wrapping the edges around my finger. And I honestly do not cut edges out of my frontal because I feel like it still gives you the same effect if you just slightly pull some hairs out from the front of your frontal. I think it looks just as natural, except you're not cutting any baby hairs out. So I'm literally just sliding out some of the front pieces of my frontal down into some baby hairs and just letting it like slide back into my frontal, as you guys can see. Now that I've laid my hair down with some foaming wrap lotion, I like to go over it again with some Pt.2 glue. And this just helps to keep the baby hairs in place. And yeah, y'all, I mean, this is really the method that I use. I like to lay it down with foaming wrap lotion first, honestly, because it gives me the opportunity to play with it a little bit, as opposed to going straight to the Pt.2 glue and having it stick and look crazy. So this is just a method that works for me. And this is the final product, guys. I am super happy with how it turned out. Please let me know if you have any questions about anything I did. And I can say on average, it obviously took me a little bit longer because I was filming, but it usually takes me about 30 minutes to go through the process of applying my baby hairs and my wig in general. So yeah, y'all, this is the final look. Let me know if you really like it. Please don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, all of that. But yeah, y'all, this is the final product. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I really appreciate you guys, and I'll see you guys all in my next video.